Hey guys, and welcome to the Real Estate Doctors podcast, where I am here to educate, inspire, and entertain you sometimes. I don't know if we'll be entertaining. We'll try to be entertaining. Yeah, I know. Nathaniel's pretty cool. He's got the whole peace thing going. So today I have Nathaniel Hovsepian, right? Which
There
is
you go.
Armenian,
Yeah.
which I think is super cool name. Usually I'm very good at looking at a name and knowing like where the family name comes from, but he had me here. Nathaniel and I have met, kind of linked up through social media. We had a call. We hit it off. Today we're going to talk about some of the things we hit it off about. Like number one, I just want to put a disclaimer. We're going to talk about fatherhood, and you will see our children, not intentionally, but my kids are going to come home from school here. And since we're going to talk about fatherhood, hey, if they come in here, they come in here. It's part of the show. And he's got some little ones running around there too. So we're going to talk about fatherhood, but we're obviously going to talk about real estate too. We're going to talk about subject two. We're going to talk about co-living, which is pretty cool, which you can't do everywhere. And
Yeah.
we're going to talk about, how he got into the business and what he's actually doing. All right. So, let's talk about why don't you give a little background on yourself, like how you got into real estate and how you got into what is commonly known in the market as creative financing.
Yeah.
And subject two has this like super lore about it. So if you don't mind, go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess going way back, this is back to 2003. I joined the Marine Corps. I got out of the Marine Corps. I went to a mechanic school. This was in Arizona. And after mechanic school, I'm like, I don't really want to be a mechanic anymore. I did that in the Marine Corps. I went back to California and I bought this condo in Garden Grove and I started going to school, engineer, met my girlfriend at the time. I told her when we were dating, I don't want to stay in California. I want to move out. This was just a means to an end. But I own this condo in Garden Grove, California. And when we left, we're going to sell it. I wish I hadn't probably, but it is what it is. We sold it with the intent of buying a property. We ended up moving to Oklahoma as our primary residence. We had it in the back of our heads when this condo sold. Hey, man, I use we made good money on this thing. Like, so maybe this real estate, buying and selling real estate in some sort of fashion is a thing. It's something that we can do. It's like something that I can put my time and energy in. I don't want to be a mechanic. I realized after going through school, I don't want to be an engineer. I hadn't found my passion, my drive yet. And so we bought this house that was going from Southern California, people packed on top of people, 7 acres. We had this beautiful property that had a creek running through it. It had a pond in the back that had fish, like deer, all the things that you would want when you're leaving a major city to go out and spread your wings in a sense.
Yep.
And 2 weeks before we're supposed to close on this thing, Brittany, my girlfriend at the time, wife now, gets this job and it's an hour and a half away. And we're like, oh, maybe this isn't the property that we should be buying right now, but we're buying it for cash. We're going to be, closing in 2 weeks. It's kind of too late at this point, in a sense. We could have backed out and just lost our EMD, but we can maybe talk about that at
Uh-huh.
a different time. We just decided, hey, let's make this an investment property. I'm going to go in, I'm going to fix it up, and I'm going to rent this thing out. And it did really well for a handful of years while we owned it before we moved to South Carolina, which is where we're at now. But that's what kind of started the man, real estate investing is a thing. I can fix up a house, I can buy it. We ended up refinancing it out, so we got most, if not all, of our cash. I forget exactly, but we refinance this thing out, and somebody's paying our mortgage down, and we're getting money every month for owning this property, and the thing's going to appreciate over time, and we're able to get the tax benefits of it. So I started going direct to seller at that time, trying to find more properties to buy. I just like, hey, this is a thing. I'm going to put my energy into it. And so I figured out, you can cut out the middleman, the agents, in a sense, by going and marketing direct to seller. So I did everything um, as far as marketing goes. I don't know how far do you want me to go here, Jay?
I'm writing down the question. So
Okay. Yeah,
if it's
yeah.
great, I'll
Okay.
ask questions. First off, I want to say
Yeah.
thank you for serving. It's very much appreciated. Um, I want to talk, well, I want to mention when I first started investing, I was just talking to a student about this. My whole logic was, this is like in my early 20s, I'm not going to have a retirement. I'm not going to have Social Security, this, that, and the other thing. I should just buy a property just for retirement. I didn't care
Mm.
if I just broke even. It would just be something that could pay me kind of like a pension when I was older. Uh,
Yep.
so that's actually the simple reason that I got into real estate. And then I think I don't mention this all the time, but nobody really, there are some people that go to school to get into real estate, but nobody really just says when they're younger, I want to be a real estate investor. They go for
Right.
it. I went to college for engineering. That lasted like 2 weeks, and I went to business school. But I think there's a statistic like something crazy, like 90% of the people that do real estate, that was not their original intention. So you kind of
Mm.
fall into it. And then when you
Yeah.
fall into it, and you get some momentum, not only do you like see that it works, you see all these different like spider web of opportunities in real estate, which
Yep.
probably happened to you. So when you say you decided to go direct to seller, so basically you were going around the real estate agents and trying to put a deal under contract with the sellers directly off market.
Correct.
And okay,
Yep.
so when you were doing that, what was your strategy? Like what was, if you had one at the time?
Not a good one.
Okay.
I was for the first probably 4 years where I was investing were very reactive rather than proactive. So I sent direct mailers out and it was just like, oh wait, mailers are out. We'll wait for the calls to start pouring in instead of filling my time with something else at to try to be more proactive and find more sellers. But we did everything from direct mail, SEO, PPC online. We did Facebook ads. I've done cold calling. Not myself. Well, I have cold called myself as well. We had a VA at one point. I mean, we've done cold texting. We've run the gamut over our wholesaling career, which is at an end now. We are just buying properties at this point, but I wholesaled for almost 8 darn years. We
That's
had some success. Yeah. Yeah.
that's first off, that's great. So let me say
Yeah.
I started. Well, I bought one property and it worked out. And then I found this wholesaling thing and I thought wholesaling was great. I was like, I didn't have any money and it's a good way to build up capital and it gets you in the
Yep.
game. And also, I had this conversation with somebody this week too, that like when you're in wholesaling, then you start to see it makes you aware of other things that go into real estate. Why are these people buying these houses? Like, who's the guy that bought this house for me? What did he do with it? Oh my God,
Hmm.
did that with this house, and I just made a quick 10,000 or something like
Yeah.
that. So I do think that wholesaling is, and look, I still, you know, wholesale deals as I'm not like actively, I'm not doing the kind of marketing you were talking about. I coach that to people, but I still wholesale every month. Like, it's almost like once you're good at it, why would you throw that money away? Um,
Right.
so just curious, because I get this question all the time. What did you find was the best strategy in that marketing when you were saying PPC and mailers and calling and et cetera, et cetera?
I I don't think that there's an answer to that, Jay,
Oh,
and
it's a
maybe
good
you
answer.
differ there. Yeah, I think that the best strategy is the one that you stick with for 6 months.
My God, you must
Yeah.
be so I do these daily nuggets in the morning and they're like 8 minutes and I give people like, my thoughts. So if you don't check them out, check out my daily nuggets on YouTube. And today I talked about marketing and I said marketing is just a test. Like somebody could tell you like, oh, this you don't know. Like what works for me might not work for you. And it might work, it would work if we were in the same market with the same
Yep.
budget. But if you're in a different market with a different budget, so you basically, but I did say you have to give them all 6 months, which I thought was like when you hire a marketing agency and they're like, well, we need 3 to 6 months to see if this works. I'm like, oh, you're just trying to tie me up for
Right.
6 months.
Yeah.
But since you're testing, that's what you have to do. And
Yeah.
so I don't think that there is one, you got to find a strategy that works for you and you have to try them all. And then when you figure out the one that works for you, then you pounce on it. But that takes time. So very well
Yeah.
said. So I knew when I was talking to you, I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. So
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
so so how did the wholesaling go for you, and how did you progress into the, just like I believe I heard you said you just buy houses for yourself now.
Yeah. So it was there's aspects of it that I miss for sure because I really enjoyed talking to sellers. I liked having conversations and building rapport and credibility with them and finding out their problems. And like a lot of the times, I would say most of the time we bought a house from somebody, they were they didn't know what to do with this house. Like the agent tells me it's not going to sell for what I need, or like I've dealt with agents before and I don't want to deal with agents. The house is in so much repair that disrepair that I can't do the repairs myself. And so or something even crazier is going on, right? We dealt with a lot of people where a parent died or passed away, and like I live across the country and I don't know what to do and I don't know how the resources to do so. So I enjoyed that aspect of it a lot. It was a grind for me though. It was just me and a VA for a lot of the time, and it wasn't something that, at least at the time, which is going back 18-ish months now, I wanted to scale up. I didn't know how to, I guess. And I guess if the me today could go back 18 months, I might have taken myself out of the position a little bit and let that thing run on its own. But it was just a grind. My wife had just had our second child a couple years ago, and she wanted to leave her job and come and work in the business. She doesn't want to be on the phones at all. She doesn't want to talk to buyers. She doesn't want to talk to sellers. She doesn't want to talk to title companies. So, um, she was essentially like she left this really good job where she was managing people to kind of be a glorified secretary in a sense. Hey, I got a contract. I need you to send a contract out, like get a signature. She's like, this is not why I left my job. I want to be a part of the company. I want to be an owner in this company. And so we took some we it's a lot of what I talk inside, which we can get to inside of my community, my Fit Fatherhood community, is like taking stock on what the values that you want, what you want your days and weeks and months to look like. So we did this. We went through these exercises together and like, what do we want to do? And so for about 6 months, we flipped houses because she really likes the going in and designing and seeing a project completion and managing the project. So we did that for a spell, but it was just like, this isn't why we got into real estate. We didn't get into real estate to get rid of houses. We got into real estate to acquire them for the kind of the same reason that you mentioned, which is I want to build up my retirement. I want to build up my nest egg. So 10 years down the line, like I can do whatever the heck I want. Not that I don't enjoy what I'm doing now, because I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't enjoy it. But I want to be able to help dads out with their freaking health. And so
Yep.
I'm at a place where we're able to do that now. So um, I think I answered the question.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
did, and everything you're saying, I'm writing down stuff here. So,
Yeah.
um, first off, I like that you said that, some people have the perception of wholesaling and they think that like you're taking advantage of people, but you basically you're helping people. And,
Yeah.
these people, if they knew how to sell their property the best way, they would just sell their property the best way. They need help with that. So you are
Hmm.
helping people. I do totally understand. I feel like, well, first off, wholesaling is a grind for people that don't know. I don't want to say it's a grind, like, it's good money. And like you could do a $50,000 a year job and be grinding, or you can make 200, 500, whatever. You can make wholesaling and be grinding, but it still is a grind.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, have you ever read, because you're talking about basically you got to a point in your life where you decided happiness is more important than, making a couple bucks, right? And we all get to that point. Well, maybe we don't, maybe we all should get to that point, but at some
Yeah.
point, I also got to that. I'm curious if you ever read the book Life in Air. Not,
Life in air?
yeah, not
No, I
Millionaire,
have not.
Life in Air. You should read this.
No. Okay.
This guy, you should read this book, and anybody else that's listening should read this book. And it's basically how to plan your life for happiness. Um, and he actually does workshops and stuff. And when you were talking about, you and your wife were talking, I know husbands and wives have gone to this and completely changed their lives when they
Mm,
come out. Um, and I don't know the guy personally, but I will tell you that every day in my journal, I write Life in Air to remind myself to do something with my children and with my
mm,
wife, because that's what it's about, and not just working all the time.
yeah.
I did want to touch on, how was it working with your wife in the business?
It has its challenges. Um, we we're both hard-headed, uh stubbornish, I guess, yeah, is the best way. And it we're better now for sure. Early on, it was tough, I think, because it was something that I built up myself,
Mhm.
right? She was always a part of it. I'd bounce ideas off of her, but for 5 years, it was me doing the thing, and she didn't have really much any part of it. And so I think, and it would be a better question for her, but there was a little bit of you're the you're the you're the owner, and it's not that way at least as much anymore. But we've been able to divvy up tasks. Like this is my thing. She's the COO essentially. She's in charge of operations. When our operations manager looks at a property and thinks it's a go, it gets escalated to Brittany. Very rarely am I underwriting a deal, looking at numbers, things like that. It's on her. That's her job essentially, and so she's taking care of all the operations thing. What is a big challenge for us is taking off. We've got that kind of ironed out essentially. We agree, like these are your things, these are our things. We agree what we're doing in the business. We have goal setting sessions for that. What's difficult sometimes is taking off that hat because we're entrepreneurs, because we want to grow our business out, we want to see our operations managers be successful and reach her goals. It gets hard to take off the parent,
The work.
the business hat, the entrepreneur hat, and put on the husband wife hat
Uh-huh.
sometimes.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I don't know if you can hear the kids in the background, but like
No.
when the entrepreneur hat comes off, the parent hat goes on.
Yeah, we
You
talk
know,
about that, and we are going to talk about that. So,
yeah,
I mean, I could have we could have an hour
yeah,
podcast on how it is to work with your significant other, but it is difficult, and it does need to be managed, and there needs
yeah.
to be expectations set. So, all right, let me, so now you buy houses for yourself, and I definitely want to talk a little bit about let's talk about what subject two is, what you're
Hmm.
doing now. Um, and yeah, so let's talk about that. So what you're doing now in subject twos.
Yeah, so I'd like to go back to what you mentioned about wholesalers. You said like they're just taking advantage of people.
Mhm.
When we talk about subject two, this is just completely cutting that premise to go down,
Yeah.
because subject two as is a solution to a problem that a seller has. Subject two is taking over a person's mortgage, essentially. So a person has a note on this property for, let's just say it's $100,000. They owe $100,000 on this house, and it's $1,000 a month for the mortgage. I'm going to come in and potentially put some money in their pocket, depends on what the situation is, but I'm going to pay them to leave that mortgage in place, and I'm going to become the new owner of the house, and it's now my responsibility to pay that mortgage. That mortgage is my responsibility. That being said, the mortgage stays in that person's name. I know you're aware of this, Jay, but
Yeah, no,
just to try to, as basically as I can understand, as basically as I can break it down, think of like from a grocery store standpoint. Somebody walks into a grocery store, they go shop, they buy a bunch of groceries, they put it on their credit card, and then as they're walking out of the store, I walk in and I go, you know what? Can I just pay you for those groceries? I'm going to take those groceries right now, and I'm going to pay your credit card bill when it comes due. Right. So essentially, I'm now the owner of the groceries, but there's a debt still in that person's name that's my responsibility. So just to think about it from
yep.
another kind
So
of perspective.
a lot of people don't understand this, but you own the deed. You get
Hmm.
put on the deed, but the debt is in the previous owner's name. Now,
Correct.
I'm going to ask you questions that I know the answers to, but hey, I'm interviewing you here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so why would a seller, let you take the deed to their house, but not pay off the mortgage?
Yeah. So like for whatever reason, maybe they're moving, maybe there's, a death in the family, maybe they just really want to sell this house. They don't want to be in the house anymore. They want to sell this house. They need to sell this house. But the property doesn't have enough equity in it. So the difference between what they can actually sell it for on the open market versus what they owe on the underlying debt. And so if they were to sell it, let's just use that $100,000 house, for example. They owe $100,000 on this house, but the house is only worth $103,000. If I went and sold this property on the open market, I have to pay closing costs, I have to pay agent costs. There's a bunch of costs that come with this property. I would actually have to bring money to the table to sell my property because I'm going to walk away with 96,000 just for numbers sake. So I'm gonna have to bring $4,000 to sell my house. That doesn't make sense to me. Even if I had $4,000, I don't want to spend the $4,000 on it. And a lot of people don't have that reserve. So the subject two as a solution to this problem is the house has not appreciated enough since I purchased it for me to have paid down the mortgage enough and for the price that I can pay or price that I can sell on the open market for there to be enough spread. So us as an investor, even as a homeowner, you can buy a, as a homestead buyer, you can buy a property subject to. We can come in and say, hey, look, I'll put $5,000 in your pocket if you just let me take that $100,000 property
Right.
over. And then as an investor, I can do whatever the heck I want with it. So that's where like you're saying with the wholesalers, these people can come in, these wholesalers can come in and if you know and you understand subject to and you're able to realize that this is the problem for this person, this is why this property is not selling or why they're not going to be able to sell it. Now I'm solving their problem. And
Well,
so there are unscrupulous say, wholesalers out there. There are bad actors in every business, but I think
Well,
for the
what
most
what I
part,
would
yeah,
say is a lot of wholesalers don't recognize that those are even opportunities because
right,
wholesaler will say, if the house is worth 100,000 and they owe 96, there's no money for them. They're
right,
not looking, they don't have that strategy of a
yep,
subject to. And some of the benefits of these subject twos are that, what are the interest rates that you're picking up when you're buying a property subject to? Like, can you give an example? Like, yeah.
yeah. We've gotten some as low as like 2.75%. Like a VA loan that was a few years ago, and we typically won't buy anything above like 5% just because the numbers end up not making sense.
Mhm.
But you're looking at right now in today's market, if you went and just got a DSCR loan, like 6.5 to 7.5%. So if you can save 2%, it makes a big difference from an investment standpoint.
It's killer. I mean, most of the loans from like 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, like all those rates are like 5% and under. A matter of fact, I think it's
Yep.
like 62% of all the mortgage rates that are outstanding in the country are like under 5%. But you're right.
Yep.
If you're an investor right now, like I have investors that like students of mine that, they might even pay 8%, because, yeah, the rate is 7, but then you're an investor, you got to add a point. And,
Yeah.
so anyway, it's significant the amount that you save, and you're basically taking over somebody else's good loan. So, you know, I could go on a tangent on how
Yeah.
homeowners should be buying houses like this because if you're out, I just want to mention, if you're out and you're looking for $1 million house and you are pre-qualified at a 7% interest rate, if you go, somebody else already has $1 million house with a $900,000 loan at a 4% interest rate, it's a
Yep.
way better deal to buy that house. You could pay more for that house. Your payment's going to be, much, much less. So
Yeah.
I just want to say, kids just came back, so maybe we'll get them.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Mine are just banging on the couch behind me. This is actually my background. I think we did that on our
Oh,
first call. I like, we talk or not we, but a lot of people that we just complain about how the banks and bankers and all, they're just making all this money hand over fist. Well, stick it to the bank. Don't give the down payment to the bank. Go give it to the seller. Take over the note that's already in place. Don't pay any points. Don't pay any closing costs. Don't pay any of those like freaking processing, origination fees, all that junk that the bank's gonna charge you if you go get a loan from them. Go find a seller and take over their loan that's already existing. Most loans are assumable. We're
yeah,
not even talking about subject to. We can just talk about going and assuming it. And now you're actually the name on the loan. That
yeah,
comes with closing costs, but
yeah,
yeah,
that's true
better
too.
than
So you can, there are several loans, but we don't want to get into the nitty gritty. But
right. Yeah, yeah,
let me just
yeah.
follow. Let me just follow the logic here. Okay, so now let's say you buy this house. Here, you want to say hi? We're talking about fatherhood today. So here, this is my oldest son, Liam. You know.
How you doing,
Okay.
Leo?
So you can take over somebody. All right. So why would you buy a house where they owe 96? It's worth 100. What are you going to do with the house? What's your exit strategy on that house?
Yeah, so there's a handful of extra strategies when we're talking about entering into a property creatively. Typically, long-term rental is what everybody wants to do, as you know, what investors want to do. At where our market is at right now, most of the deals that we're seeing, we're not able to long-term rent. So what our big focus has been over the past 8 months and going forward this year is co-living. So it's a rent by the room. It's solving affordable housing, especially in big cities. These are people that for one reason or another, either they either can't afford a house or an apartment of their own, or they don't want to afford. Their finances are strapped enough where they're like, I don't want to pay $2,000 a month for a house. I'd rather pay $700 a month for this room. That's all I really need anyway. I need a room where I can have my privacy. I can come home after work and watch Netflix in my own little space. It's still a fully furnished kitchen and all that. So they have all the amenities that they need, and they can come in, make their dinner, make their breakfast, and they can go to work and do their own thing. So that's where we're really focused on. You may have heard the company pad split. That is a rent by the room, like I don't want to call it model, but they're a facilitator. They're almost like the Airbnb of co-living properties. We don't do pad split, at least not yet. We've just been solely doing the co-living on our own we put a property manager in place, but yeah.
Okay, so a couple questions with that. One,
Yeah.
disclaimer that you can't in some parts of the country you can't put, what do they call it? So many multiple family. You can put a couple families, but like different cities, I know you
Yeah.
can have so many different. I forget what they call them. I don't know if they call them families.
Yeah. I just talked to somebody about it yesterday. Like if there's more than three people that are unrelated in the
That's it.
house, it's called
Three
they called
unrelated
it a
parties in a
brothel.
house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some places you can't do that. Now,
Yeah.
assuming that you can do that in the market that you're in, um, I'm curious, how do you do the leases? Do you have one master lease? Do you have like everybody on their own individual lease?
Everybody has their own individual lease. Some people do it as small of a time frame as a week.
Mhm.
We have done that in the past. We prefer at least month to month. It's we have people that come in and they sign a year lease. Like, I want to rent this thing room out for a year. Those are the best. It's you get the benefit of the long term, the stability of like a long term rent, but you can
Yep.
do it 6 or 7 or however many rooms you can put in a house. Um, but yeah, on your point, you do want to check with your city or your local municipalities and always if there's an HOA, if there's not a hey, we allow co-living on the books,
Hmm.
don't go into that freaking don't buy that house because that can switch at the drop of a hat is yeah.
That's a really good point. So, um, not to put a harp on this, but how do you evict? Like, let's say you got four rooms, four different people, and one person's not paying. Like, how do you get rid of them?
Yeah, same. I mean, it's the same process
Process.
as you would as with a long-term rental. They have their own lease. They have their own things that they need to abide by. If they're not doing their job, I mean, there's certain things that we say you got to do when you come into the house. You have to keep the common areas clean. Like if you're messing with other people's food and their belongings, like you got to go. And it is the fact that having multiple people in a house that are not related, and even if they were related, it causes problems and it can cause problems. So we
That's
do
true.
the best. Like we have SOPs, standard operating procedures for our house, um, and that helps mitigate things a little bit. And we're always iterating as we scale up and we buy more properties. There's going to be new things that we learn, and you know, people are going to teach us new lessons
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah. I like that. I like that. All right. So so that your primary strategy is you will buy a house subject to take over that person's mortgage and then do this co-living. Is that what you call it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Co-living, yeah.
We in the bigger cities we call rooming houses, rooming house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
okay, is that your only strategy or is there a couple other like go to or that's your primary?
As far as when we're buying creative deals, which we've talked about subject twos, we actually prefer seller finance deals. It's a little bit cleaner,
Mhm.
but that's still a creative where instead of taking over a note, we're creating a note. with the seller where they become the bank and we make payments directly to them over time. But when we're talking about creative deals, it is either a long-term rental or a co-living. Those are the strategies that we're employing. When we started buying properties a little over a year ago, it was like, oh, well, we'll do co-living, we'll do midterms, we'll do short terms.
Mhm.
You you sell yourself, or you spread yourself too thin. Just the more you can niche down, we found the better you can
People.
do. Like the more things that you can say no to, the more blinders I can put on and just focus on this one thing, the better I'm gonna get at it. That's not to say that at some point we'll bring in short-term rentals or mid-term rentals, but right now let's get this thing freaking smoothed out so we can set it on autopilot and it's going to run and then we can start to pivot and focus on other things.
Okay. So, you said one thing, which is interesting that you said it, and you probably don't. So anyway, the
Yeah.
first time I met my coach, the biggest concept I got from him was you got to say no to open up space in your life for the things
Yep.
that you want. Like, you got to say no to that customer that seems to be a pain in the ass to get the customer that you want. You got to say no to these things that aren't feeding you so that you get these other things. So it's pretty interesting that you picked up on that. Um, we didn't talk about seller financing, so I just want to so seller finance basically, you go to the seller and the seller so you give them an IOU. I'll pay you later. Instead of paying you cash now, I'll pay you
Yep.
later, and you let them be the bank and make the interest. I am curious, uh, how do you pitch that to them?
Yeah. Well, to use that, I'm going to be dad responsible for the rest of this podcast.
I love this
They're going to walk out
podcast.
of the house. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, to take that $100,000 property example, right, where there was a note in place. Now the situation is flipped. They own this thing
Frank.
either all the way free and clear or very close to free and clear, where I could just maybe make the down payment and pay the rest of their mortgage off. The pitch is more from so subject to is a need. I need to sell this house and I can't sell it on the open market because there's not enough room there. And I'm not going to bring money to the table. Seller finance we see more as like a want. I want more than the house is worth. As a landlord, maybe I like the monthly payments, but I don't want the responsibility anymore. So I still want income. I want to defer my capital gains. I don't want capital gains. Like so,
Yep.
we see seller finance more as a want. So it's not so much about pitching as it is about finding out what this person desires from the sale of the house.
Listening. Listening.
Exactly, listening, and then because I have these things and because I have these other tools besides just a 65%, cash offer, I can guide the seller and let them come to the realization that seller finance is the right decision for them. Now, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but there's, with seller finance, there's levers that we pull, right? There's a down payment, there's how long the payments, how many years I'm going to make, or how many months I'm going to make payments for, what the monthly payment is. I like to hold I like to keep the one in reserves, the interest rate. If the seller doesn't bring up interest rate, I'm not going to bring up interest rate. Because if I can get it at 0%, that is freaking pure equity pay down.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
so yeah.
So, I mean, you did bring up the fact that the more strategies you have, the more opportunities you have to make a deal. And, I think that's when I coach people in wholesaling. Sometimes I pick up people that have already been wholesaling and they're throwing away like the people you're talking to that are asking too much for the house, they're throwing away.
Yep.
The people that have a mortgage that is at 100% of the value of the house, they're throwing away. So,
Yep.
it takes time to learn all the strategies, and I'm sure there's I'm dying to find strategies I don't know yet. I'm sure there's more.
Yeah.
But the more
You're the
strategy,
doctor. You know all the strategies.
nah. The older you get, the more you know
Yeah.
that you don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So okay. So I definitely want to talk a good bit about the fatherhood and the group that you have and this, that, and the other thing. So is this a good transition, or like do you feel like
Yeah,
you?
yeah, well, to kind of talk on your point, the knowing that you don't know everything, right? And it's just there's so much mindset that comes into real estate investing. It comes into being an entrepreneur and realizing that you don't know everything and you don't have all the answers is what allows you to gravitate towards people like yourself, other communities where there are people like yourself that know a lot more than you. Because being able to lean on these people that have the experience and the expertise is how you can do deals where you shouldn't be doing deals. Because we
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing these things on our own, right? I forget what the quote is. I'll butcher it a little bit, but like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, sure, I can do stuff real quick by myself because I'm the only one that I have to answer to. But if I want to scale, I need to bring people in that know more than I do. I need to bring people in that have different skill sets that I do. And so that's where like the community aspect of I'm in subject to, or I'm in sub to the real estate community. I have a hat that I wear. Oh, and that's where the piece comes from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's to segue to that's what kind of drove me and my partner in Fit Fatherhood to this is like we wanted to build a community where there's a bunch of busy dads that are struggling with finding the time for their nutrition and their exercise essentially. And that's how we've built this community is like it started as me and Zach, and we've slowly been adding people to it that are there, they're engaged, and they want to take action. And we've got a cool little group on school, and we're growing a Facebook group just so we can continue to provide value to people. But um, oh, I lost what I was gonna say. Oh no, yeah, you mentioned the thing on the wholesalers, and it's like they're just picking the low-hanging fruit when it
Yeah.
comes to, only having cash. They're in For some people that is great. Go do that. It's allowing them to say no to all those things like you
Yeah.
kind of mentioned is like go
Yeah.
just say no to it. For me, I don't want to like I want to have all those tools in my tool belt so I can do those things. But if you don't want to learn subject to and you don't want to learn seller finance, like bring them to me. I'll I'll help you out. I'll close them and then I'll give you a referral fee.
Oh, all right. Hey, there's a
Yeah.
pitch, guys,
Yeah.
for collaboration. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about a little bit about like having a community. And I just want to, I'll preface this and then I want you to tell us about your community and what you do in there. Um, but I really truly believe that and I didn't, obviously everybody's heard this, but you are, the five closest friends you have or the five
Yeah.
closest people that you hang around with. So, if you want to make more money, go hang around with people that make more money. If you
Yeah.
want to hang around with the people you went to high school with that are like, not maybe they are making it, maybe they're not, then you're gonna be like them. You're gonna be like whoever you surround yourself with. So, and I feel like what's beautiful, a couple of things you had mentioned is with YouTube and all these other things. I feel like this is such a wonderful time in the world where I can, it's like if I want, Elon Musk can be my best. I can listen to him like he was in
Yeah.
the room and get advice from him, or any kind of person that you follow. Like I like Ed Milet and Tom
Mhm.
Bilyeu, and I'm a big podcast guy. I said Patrick Bet David, like so. You know, the fact that we can get all this information and for free, and you can like always, I'm always listening net time, which is no extra time, like if I'm
Okay.
in the bathroom, in the car, I'm always listening to these things. And a lot of people are always like, how did you read that book too? But I didn't read it. I listened to it, but I'm
Yeah.
still getting it. But I'm going to let you talk about your community, but I also have a community. And I think that my community is not the same as your community, so I'm not competing here with communities. My point
No,
is,
yeah.
you know, it's it's taken me to the next level with the
Mm.
support and with especially with men. We tend to be we tend to you don't want to put your guard down a lot of times with other people. You need to be in a group of people that aren't going to judge you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm dealing with that too, and et cetera, et cetera. So go ahead. This is why honestly, when I first talked to you, this was like the icing on the cake. I was like, oh my God, I love this. So
Yeah.
please tell us about your community and what you're doing in it, and where you want to see it go.
Yeah, so it it grew from my experience as a dad so far. So I have a four, well, he'll be 4 in a month. God, yeah, I just thought about this morning. He'll be 4 in a month. And we have a 2-year-old, and then our daughter, who I'm responsible for right now, is 3 months old. And so as a as an entrepreneur or just a career driven person, finding the time to be a high level person in my career, a quality father, a quality husband, and then still be able to take care of myself, I had to learn a lot of tools that allow me to do so. Allow me to go out and get the exercise that I need, to eat proper nutrition, but still be the dad that my kids need and the dad that I want to be for my kids and the husband that I want to be for my wife. We talked about how that is it's tough for us. We have some things that we put in place, and these are all little things that I talk about in my community. So it's called Fit Fatherhood on school and on Facebook. On Facebook, it's Fit Fatherhood, a community for busy dads, something, 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 because there's
So
so
make
many,
sure you give them, we'll put them in the link below
yeah,
to
in the
the
show notes.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. But essentially, it's all these things that I've learned through being a collegiate athlete, being in the Marine Corps, being an entrepreneur, spending money on, personal development coaching, business coaching, things like that, where we learned all the different ways to pack your day with all the things that you want to be doing. And one thing that we found is a lot of people know these things, right? You watch YouTube, you hear people like Patrick Bet David, Jordan Peterson, they talk about how to fill your day and how to have fulfilling days, but they don't have the support, they don't have the community, they don't have the accountability that it takes to really put these things into practice. And so that's what we're really providing is that support and that community and that accountability for these people. Like, yeah, we're going to show you a bunch of things along the way. We're going to give you, resources. Like right now, we're actually going through a 5-week foundational habit building challenge. And week number one is doing an audit, a time and food audit. And I don't know if that's I think that we talked about that, but
Yeah, we talked about it, but
um,
I don't do that in my men's group, but I do that with my business coaching, but
yeah,
people don't realize what they're wasting their time on, you know?
yeah, yeah, what
But
you're
go
wasting
ahead.
your
Why
time on,
don't you
like you put.
explain what's a time on it?
Yeah, so a time audit is we're going through it right now. It's I'm doing it every half an hour. You can do it every 15 minutes. You can do it every hour. I find that the half an hour is kind of a sweet spot, but you're literally writing down or typing in or saying into your phone what you did for that half an hour. Like did I went and made my tea, and then
Huh?
I came back to the computer and I edited videos for 20 minutes, then I walked over and grabbed my tea and I drank it. And that goes into the food audit side of things too, but literally write down everything you're doing because you won't you at the end of your week you will be able to look back and go, oh man, there is a bunch of time wasters in there.
Hmm.
Maybe it's scrolling on Instagram, watching shorts on YouTube or videos on YouTube. And that's not to say that we want to completely cut that out. Maybe that's something that we find fulfillment in, right? But if you're doing it for an hour and a half and you're saying, I don't have any time to exercise, I don't have any time to do my 30 minutes of exercise, I just found you an hour and a half, right? So maybe we cut it down to 45 minutes and now you have plenty of time to do your exercise. And then we're doing the same thing on the food side. What did you put in your mouth today? Water, soda, hamburger, all the things, candy, ice cream. We're not judging here when we're doing a time and food audit. All we're doing is documenting. And we're not going to judge when it comes time to go back and look at it. All we want to do is see, like, what are our goals and how does what we're doing, both time and food wise, get us to those goals, or is it going to get us to those goals? And on that goals thing, the being able to say no thing, being able to say no to things that aren't aligning with our goals, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to having a super clear vision on where we want to go, be it in our business, in our relationship, as a father, as my health. Do I want to lose 10 pounds? Do I want to gain 5 pounds? Right? What are those goals? Because if I want to lose 10 pounds, I got to be able to say no to the cake. If I want to spend more time with quality time with my kids or my wife, I got to say no to playing video games with my friends. Right. And so having a really clear goal, and goal setting is something that we talk about in our community as well. And we talk about different areas, which is, health, family relationships, spiritual relationships, career, work, financial. Um, and there's two more. I always miss the last one. But yeah, personal development. So we set goals in all these different aspects because we want to have this clear, like a wheel. We don't want one thing to be unbalanced. That's not to say that there aren't different seasons of life where we're going to be really dedicated to our business right now because I'm trying to scale this thing up. Or man, I'm feeling like I've let myself go recently. So for the next quarter, I really want to focus on my health and my wellness. So but we want to have balance overall. We don't want to just be completely, dedicated to one aspect. There are people out there that do that. Alex Hormozy would say, "Forget you." I don't know if you're familiar with Alex.
I'm
It's
familiar.
all about business. Yeah,
Yeah,
make money. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't think he
But
has kids though.
right. So
Yeah,
yeah,
a little
yeah. So yeah,
different.
but
So,
we in the oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
well, I mean,
Uh,
you say all these great things. So first off, I
yeah.
want to back up. Like, we're goals.
Yeah.
95% of the people I talk to when like I'm they're interviewing me, or I don't know what you call it. Like they come to talk to me and see if they want me to coach them. They don't have goals. 95%.
Mm,
No
yep.
joke. So if you don't have any goals, you're a drifter, and you're just drifting around. And a lot of times you do have goals. You're working for somebody else's goals and you don't know it.
Yeah.
So the goals thing is super important, but tracking them. And you had mentioned, and I may be jumping ahead, accountability. I just wanted to mention a couple things that in the last couple of years have been so insightful for me. um, I met a guy in social and he had a group, like an accountability group. And all it was once a week, you meet for half an hour and he
Hmm.
put it on like a software, like you put your goals and you say, and you come there and you basically say, this is what I'm going to do this week. And, next week he's there just going, okay, you said you were going to do this. Did you do it?
Yep.
First, the craziest thing is, you know, the group started with, I don't know, 25 people. It wasn't expensive at all. But, and honestly, I was like, this is annoying. Like, I'm a pretty good go-getter. Like, I don't need this. It's funny. Like, I said something similar um, to you at one time, but basically, it forced me to go. It forced me to think one extra time on my goals and kind of like almost micro. But the group was like 25, and it ended up like we did it for a year and a half. It was only supposed to be 3 months, but then like
Yeah.
it kept like four people. It went from 25 to four pretty quickly, like in 2 months, and then
Yeah.
so half the people can't even keep the commitment to show up to the thing that they paid for, which is crazy.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and I used to hate, like, I don't have anybody to answer to. And as an entrepreneur, you don't either. Sometimes it's good to have somebody to answer to, you got
Yep.
to show your face. Like, why didn't you do that? And what was great about this guy, and the only reason we stopped this was he had a passing in his family and, with his mom. And so he's dealing with that. But in any event, if you said I couldn't do something, he would not let you off with that. Oh, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Like, let's say I was doing something and well, I can't do this new marketing for my social media because I'm waiting for something back from my social media team. Like, if you were ever an employee or had employees, they're always like, well, I sent the memo, I sent the email, I'm waiting for a response. Like, which I used to hate from employees. Like,
Yeah.
so what, you're just going to wait 400 years for them to respond? So,
Yeah.
he would be like, okay, well, you're waiting for them. What's the timeline? Well, it's a week. Okay. What can, next week? We'll give it a week. Next week, did they get back to you? No. Start calling some other social media people. They're not the only people that can do it. And
Yeah.
it's just unbelievable. I used to get off these calls and tell my wife, like, these calls that I thought were so annoying, like they always brought these great insights and they really, you know, increased the pace of what I was doing already.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on accountability and how do you use that in your group?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the accountability group because that's something that's been a key for us. My wife and I each are a part of well, she's not anymore since the new baby was, but
Yeah.
we were both part of different accountability groups. Um, I think that having different niches, different avenues that you're making money and doing things is good because you get an outside perspective on things. But ours were four, 3 and 4. people in the group. I think 25 is a little, especially for half an hour, probably a little too much. So it's
Yeah.
good that it whittled down to that. But
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Like, come in, hey, this is your goal. This is where we're going as a company, or this is where you're going as your personal development things. What are you doing this week? Okay, hold your feet to the fire. Next week, if you haven't done those things, we actually would like kick. If you didn't do your thing, get the heck out. Like, you're not. You're wasting my time. You're wasting your time. Go. They it sounded like this was a paid accountability group, so
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can't
It
just kick
was.
them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, ours were like voluntary. Hey, we're coming together. We're trying to push our goals, and that's how we're going to do it is by keeping holding each other accountable. We met once a week, and we would we should have been texting probably more often, just kind of holding each other accountable. But we'd text every now and then, like, hey, how's it going? What are you seeing?
Yeah.
Those
We
types
did.
of things. But
I made some nice friendships from it too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's it's one of those things where if you're feeling like "Man, I just don't have it in me today. Well, Jay is gonna bust my butt tomorrow if I tell him I just
Uh-huh.
don't have it in me today
Yep.
because that's not gonna work for Jay.
Yeah.
So I know what Jay's gonna say, so I better find it,
Yep.
whatever it is.
Yep.
I and good for Jay to hold me accountable because I told Jay that this is where I want to go. Was I serious? Do I really want that? Because if so, I got to take the action that's going to get me there. And breaking your goals down into actions is how you actually freaking accomplish your goals. I can set goals all day, but really the goal is the actions that I'm going to take to get to that goal. That's the goal. If I
Yep.
want to lose weight, go out and freaking walk 20 minutes a day. That's the goal. Get out and walk 20 minutes every day. It's not the
Yep.
weight that I'm going to lose, it's the
And
actions and the habits that I put in place. Yeah.
it's important to track them.
Mm,
I mean, I'm so crazy. Like, but you know what? I'm not as most successful people are in this. Like, I'm just going to show you. Like, I track over
hmm.
here how much I run every day, how many push-ups I do, if I go to the gym, how many followers I have on Instagram, how many
Yep.
subscribers I have on YouTube. Um, what did I say? How many days I did not drink,
Yeah.
I'm not like, I do drink, but I don't want to drink
Yeah.
every day of the week, so
Mm,
I try not to drink 4 days a week. So somebody can judge that.
okay.
But anyway, I'm really making an attempt. I sit here sometimes at 8 o'clock at night and I feel like, yeah, you know what? I want to have a drink. And I'm like, hey, if I just don't have the drink today, I can write off one more that I didn't because that's my goal.
Yeah.
I want to drink every
Is
day.
that the bigger pockets one?
It is. Oh man, this is great. This
Yeah,
is
the
yeah,
intentional.
but
Yeah, the
Brandon
intentional
Turner.
journal.
It's great.
Yeah.
I never met him. And I use this. Oh, you got it too, man.
Yeah.
Everybody I coach, I make get this. Then the
Mm,
action journal. I'm like
yeah.
completely. I have modified it. I'm sure you did too, but
Yeah.
but in any event, you got to track stuff. Like I know I put in my weight every day. I weigh myself every day. My wife is like, "You're too
Okay.
easy. You shouldn't get mad if you went up 2 pounds and this, that, and the other thing." But I literally know. I don't know why. I don't really care why, but I'm sure there's a reason why. I know on Wednesdays of every week is the lightest that I am all week.
Interesting.
And I know
Hmm.
on Monday is the heaviest that I am all week. You know,
Yeah.
and I've been doing this for like a year of the weight thing because I started going to the gym and stuff. And
Yeah.
so anyway, you gotta have those goals, break them down, and you gotta track them, man. You gotta
Yeah.
track them. And
Yeah.
you said something that I think is important too, which is, you know, it's not like nobody made your goals up but you. If you don't want to, you didn't want it bad enough if you don't not okay with being accountable like for
Yeah.
your goal. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just it's okay. Like if you don't want to do it, then don't make it a goal. But if you want to make it a goal, then you got to be accountable to somebody for it. So um
Yeah.
okay. So sorry, little tangent there, but you also talk about fitness, which I think is I want to jump a little bit to that, like for men, and especially you ever hear? I'm sure you heard this because you're a father and you have young kids now. Like when your wife gets pregnant, you put on the same weight as like you put
Oh
on
yeah.
weight like your wife. I think
Yeah.
that was like true.
Yeah.
It was
It's so
really
weird. Yeah,
yeah,
that's so
it
weird.
is
Yeah.
weird. So and it's not like these things automatically come off.
Right.
So tell me about like, fitness, what it means to you and how you guys integrate that into your group.
Yeah, for me, fitness is about being able to play with my kids forever. I want to be able to, like, not forever, but Like
Yeah.
if they decide that they want to play sports, I want to be able to go out in the yard and play sports with them and do things like that. And I, there's a funny thing that I've said in the community. I saw this, it was a short a while back, and it was, this typical motivating guy doing pull-ups and bench press and squatting, but the overlying thing was like, I don't work out to look great. I don't work out to win physique competitions. I work out to dominate my kids in sports for as long as possible. And I love that
Yeah.
from a hard, a Marine standpoint is
Oh.
my kids are going to earn beating me in sports. Do they beat me? Do I let them, win and have fun now? They're still really young, yeah, because
Uh-huh.
I want them to have fun. But like once they get, a little old enough, they're getting swatted. You better bring it hard in the paint. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
No,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
well,
So that,
with the fitness thing with the kids, I mean, my kids, um, during they play soccer. I live in an island, so it's not like American football or anything over here, but they
right,
love
yeah,
American football. I started like a little American football thing here, but the kids here, people don't live here forever, so like they live
mm,
for a couple years and they leave. But anyway, so they play a lot of soccer, but then when soccer is over, they don't have anything to do. So I took them to the gym that I go. The guy that owns the gym is also a student of mine, but he's like the MMA champion of the Caribbean. And so I took them
okay,
to like kids boxing. And so I go in the morning, but then I would go and do the class with them, and
mm,
it wasn't like a men's class, but it's still, man, it was really like challenging even for me. But it was
yeah,
something we got to do together, and it's really cool. And then what happened was they went back to soccer, and I got used to going to the gym at 5 o'clock. So now I go to the gym twice a day, almost every day. How crazy is
oh
that?
wow,
So
yeah,
it
that's
ended
crazy.
up being good for
Yeah,
me.
no, no.
But
Well, it
sorry.
is good. Like, and like I hear so many people, so many dads, especially of the younger kids, where most of their play is on the floor. It's like, oh, and some say it anecdotally, but a lot of them say it seriously. Is I played with my kid on the floor for 20 minutes and I'm sore for 3 days. That's not how it needs to
Yeah.
be. It doesn't have to be like that. And it doesn't take a lot, but so many people we hear, oh, you got to go to the gym for an hour and a half because that's what these fitness influencers and things like that. That doesn't have to take that long. You can do it in 10 to 15 minutes, with a really intense or focused, intense workout, and then go out and walk 15, 20 minutes, kind of, not just lollygag walk, but like, kind of intentional go walk. That's all it takes. It doesn't take freaking an hour and a half of going to the gym and having a gym membership. I haven't been to a gym outside of going to play basketball in years because I don't like having to drive to the gym. I brought the gym to me. I got jump ropes, I got some kettlebells, and I do a lot of just me and myself. I just filmed one yesterday. There's a little hill outside my house, and I just did like lunges and squats and things up the hill using the nature to my advantage. Would I get benefits out of going to the gym and lifting weights? Sure, but you don't need that. And as busy dads, as entrepreneurs, or just career-driven dads, it's fitting it in to our lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's a
When they're
reason why we
little
called it
too.
fit fatherhood.
Yeah. When they're
We
little
fit it
too,
into it.
it's
Yeah.
difficult. What I would tell you is, um, for me, I will never do the same. I won't go as hard at my
Mm.
house as I will when I am
Yeah.
embarrassed around other people and have
Yeah.
somebody yelling at me.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm making myself accountable too.
Yeah.
And I don't like the gym at all, but I
Mm.
love how I feel. I've now become addicted to how I feel after.
Yep.
But I'm there.
Yep.
I'm in the middle of, I'm like, "Ah, I do not want to be here." But I go because I know I will feel worse that I didn't go. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
100%. Yeah. I
So, but
on the like, oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
well, I mean, but I didn't do squat when my kids were your age. And,
Mm.
I put on a good like 30, 40 pounds,
Yeah.
like, and,
Yeah.
and
It's tough.
if I would have done a couple little things like you're talking about and had some guidance, I'm also not like, I hadn't gone to the gym since I was like 17, so you don't know what to do. Like, what are all these
Right.
exercises now? I do like hits and stuff. I'm like, how can you do all this little stuff and it actually works?
Yeah. Yeah.
But sorry, tangent.
Yeah. I like to, well, on the gym side of things and feeling like you get a better workout, you're probably right. You get a better workout there. I am like typically when I'm exercising, my kids are either like right next to me, or like yesterday they were in the trampoline. And so it's like I'm instilling this hard workout into them. I
Mhm.
want them to see like this is life. This is the way we do things. Fitness is a part of our routine. Fitness is a part of our days. I do 10 to 15 minutes every single day. Rain or shine, I do it in the living room. I did it this morning, right on the other side of this fireplace. Like I like doing it outside. I like being outside as much as I can. But and then I do a few longer form things every week. So like 3 to 4, maybe 20 to 30 minute, 20 to 45 minute additional things. The 10 to 15 minutes is a non-negotiable every single day, even if it's just doing like a yoga type stretching and strengthening ability. Like that is can be very, very intense. That's an intense exercise. And then I'll take them for a run. I'll do a kettlebell swing. I'll do a jump rope routine out on the patio, and the kids are there. They're being a part of it. So it's fitting it in. Like yeah, that's why we call it. It's fitness, but it's also fitting it into fatherhood and fitting it into your family life.
Wow, I like
Yeah.
that.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, we like to incorporate the kids into it wherever they I've had a double stroller as long as the second has come around, and I run with a double stroller. People call me nuts. How do you do that? Well, because I've been doing it since he like one was 15 pounds and the other was, 10 pounds. I've grown accustomed to it and it's become, kind of natural for me. So yeah, I'm a little crazy that way. Yeah.
I hear
So
you.
to talk about fit fatherhood a little bit, like we have the free Facebook group. There's a lot of value. We actually just started the Facebook group, but there's a lot of value in there just from kind of, making posts. Hey, this is what I did today. Check this video out. Check this recipe out. Here's a free resource for goal tracking or time and food audit. But inside our school community is where the real value is because that's where you're getting the weekly coaching calls, we do a coffee hour where we just come in and hang out and just talk about whatever the heck we want to talk about. No agenda, just community building. These are dads. We talk about dad stuff. We talk about like, hey, I bought this cool new microphone. Check this microphone out,
Yeah.
and just building a community that way. But we're putting on events like this 5 week challenge inside the school community, but that's where you're getting the coaching calls and the really dedicated time where it's like, hey, what are your goals? Let's set the goals together. Let's make sure that we're knocking out those goals. That way, you can feel like you're being the dad that you're meant to be for your kids and your wife.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I just want to mention one thing about the school thing. Not everybody knows what the school thing is.
Oh yeah, it's SKOOL.
Uh-huh.
And it's a platform. It's similar to like a Facebook in a way that there's a like a message board where you can make posts and you can comment back and forth, but it's much more than that. You can have courses and videos up there. There's a calendar on there with all the events. And yeah, we have a leaderboard going on right now where when you're doing the certain things in the challenge, like we're tracking it. Who's winning? Who's right now? We made it a
No
little
way.
competitive.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
So
like that. I like that.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And you're only getting that like we want people to follow along with the 5 week challenge. Like we want to be helping as many people out as possible. You're only getting that inside the school community. We're only tracking the people that are in the paid program essentially.
And is it li like, do you have a limitation to how many people you're putting in there?
No, I mentioned Sub 2, the real estate community that I'm a part of, and in a sense, we want to grow it the same way that they've grown theirs is, or that community's grown, is that it started small with a handful of really core people, and we got engagement and we got feedback from those people, and then as our community grows out, those people are going to become leaders inside the community. And so, to answer that question, no, our goal this year is to get 500 people inside the school community.
Wow.
500 dads that want to take, and out of those 500 people, we want 475 of them to like make changes because they're just the fact of the matter, like you said, there's going to be people that they're going to come in, they're going to pay for it, and they're never going to use it. And it's no matter how much I push for that not to be the case, it's going to be because we say it on our on our about page inside the school community. Like, if you're not serious about making some changes and doing your time on it, and if you see that there's gaps that need to be filled, filling those gaps with more productive things, don't freaking we I don't want you to come in here. I don't want your money. Stay the heck out, because I want people that are going to make changes, that are going to realize that, and then are going to go tell their friends, right? And bring more people into the fold. So
And I
yeah,
think that's great. Um, so I mean, I have this thing that I wrote down, so it's just stuck in my head. So
yeah, yeah.
I saw about fatherhood. I saw a commercial one time when I was living in the States, and it was like this father playing with a kid, and they were doing something stupid, like what you would think is something trivial, which is probably what you do most of the time with these little kids.
Mm,
And it said, "Take a moment to make a moment."
mm,
And man, did that resonate with me. Like I said to myself, like, you never know what they're going to remember, and
yeah.
I know that like at 4 and 5, they don't remember. And, they say that they don't remember things, but, you never know what it is that they're going to remember when they're going to say, oh man, I remember when me and my dad used to throw the football, or we used to do with some of the stuff. He used to exercise 15 minutes out there. And it just made me appreciate that every moment that I have with them could be that moment, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, another thing that I heard actually from Ed Milet, listen, his podcast I think is great, is that, things with children are caught, not taught. Like, and it's similar to
Mm,
what you said. You could sit there and try to, your kids are not old enough yet, but you could sit here and tell them, don't do this, don't do that, don't, and you were a kid and I was a kid, and that doesn't work,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But they see you, they see
Yeah.
that you're working out 15 minutes a day. They see how you interact with your wife. They see if there's love in the house, and they're going to
Yeah.
catch that.
Yeah.
And they might not catch it till it's later, but it's going to be in there. And so, I always try, when you hear, wait until your kids get a little older and you hear them say something. Like I always say, have the best day of,
Mm,
somebody have the best day of your life. You're like, my 7-year-old would, I'll be like, how was school? He's like, it's the best day of my life, Daddy. I mean, you know how proud
yeah.
that makes you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, little tangent there. So is there anything else you want to tell us about that? About your community?
No, I mean, I could talk about that kind of stuff all day, but I don't want to beat the dead horse. Like, if you're interested in joining the Fit Fatherhood community, I suggest going to starting with the Facebook group, kind of feel us out a little bit. It allows you to, get into conversation with myself or Zach, and then if you really want that kind of dedicated stuff, that's where the school community comes in. If you go to, where is it? NathanielHovsepian.com. You can find it there. Or if you just go to Facebook or go to the show notes here, Fit Fatherhood, it's Fit Fatherhood colon a community for busy dads. If you get that far,
Yeah.
that's the one. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great. I think what you're doing
Yeah.
is great. And so I guess I'll just leave it at that. And, I really appreciate, I'm really grateful that I met you. I'm really
Yeah, me too.
grateful that there's other people out there doing wonderful, like really, men need this kind of, we need this, we need
Yeah.
this. And,
Yeah.
there's a need for men to, communicate with other men about what's going on in their lives. And people that understand what it's like to be a father and the obligations of being a father and the stress. And then there isn't any, I never thought about it, but we have the right to be fit too. Like, we can be fit and be fathers. And so it's great,
Yeah.
man. I think you're doing
Yeah.
great stuff. I appreciate your time on this podcast. And with
I
that,
appreciate you.
I'm going to tell everybody, have the best day of your life. Thanks, guys.